Welcome to the Santa Barbara CalSoap Virtual College Fair. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we get started, I have a few housekeeping announcements. The first, you can use that Q&A feature to type your questions to our presenters at any point throughout our session today. Second, your camera and microphone are off, so we cannot see or hear you. Third, this is just one of many different sessions we're offering, so feel free to sign up for additional sessions. And finally, this presentation is being recorded and you'll have access to that recording within about a week or so. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our presenters.
Thank you, Jasmine. I'm sorry I can't be sharing my screen tonight. I am having internet connection problems, but my colleague from CalSoap should be sharing her screen right now. We just wanted to welcome you all to our college fair. My name is Madeline. I'm a CalSoap College Peer Advisor, and I just want to introduce my colleague Mari Fair, who is also a CalSoap College Peer Advisor, and she's going to tell you a little bit more about what we do at CalSoap.
Thank you, Madeline, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. We're SB CalSoap, and we're programs whose mission is to increase college readiness and accessibility of higher education opportunities for students in the Santa Barbara, Goleta, and Carpinteria area. We help students increase their accessibility by providing free tutoring, college and financial aid advising, and workshops to provide college awareness and preparation. We are committed to inform, advise, and expose students and their families to post-secondary opportunities and resources. Here's our contact list. If you want, you can screenshot or you can take a picture. However, here's our website if you're interested in any of our services, our email, and you can follow us on Instagram at SB CalSoap. And now Madeline will take over and she'll be introducing our presenters.
Thank you. So tonight we have presentations that will go over the CSU, UC, and private college application processes. First, we'll be having a presentation from Caitlin Ellison, who will be going over the CSU application process. Caitlin, if you want to introduce yourself and take over.
Perfect, thank you so much. Hi, welcome everyone. Like Madeline said, my name is Caitlin Ellison. I am an admission counselor at CSU Channel Islands. Although I do work for CSU UC, I will be representing all the CSUs tonight. Throughout the presentation, you're going to see some beautiful campus pictures on our backgrounds. Please know the information on those slides are representing all the CSUs. They're not just pertaining to those campuses. And I will be providing links to some of the information I'll be talking about today through the chat after my presentation. So first, if you do not know, we are the CSUs. They are the largest public institutions in the United States with 23 campuses, and we range all the way from San Diego all the way to Humboldt. I love this map. I think it's so cool. We also kind of like to call ourselves the Baskin Robbins of public universities. There is just something for everyone. There are smaller schools like CSU UC that has about 7,000 students. There's large schools like Fullerton that has around 50,000 students. There's whole rural areas up in like Chico and Humboldt. And then there's some of our schools that are in the middle of the big cities, such as Cal State LA and Long Beach. So there's something for everyone. You can see that nearly half of the state's bachelor's degrees are awarded by the CSU, and 1 in 10 employees in California are a CSU graduate. We have over 480,000 students enrolled in the CSU system. You can kind of see our breakdown of campuses. Just like we are different in demographics and our sizes, we range in so many different things that we focus on. And our oldest university is San Jose, founded in 1857, so much history there. And then our newest school, excuse the background noise, our newest school is CSU UC, founded in 2002. So you can definitely see there is a complete range of different history and different things you can focus on. So definitely check out each of our campuses for more information about what each of them holds. Of course, one of the most important things beyond location, is what can you study at one of our CSUs. So these are just some really cool majors that we offer throughout our 23 campuses: aviation, dairy science, forensic science, interior design. I love showcasing these because these are things that many students don't really think about. You generally typically are thinking about like biology and psychology, some of the more normal sounding majors, instead of these very specific fields. So we've created at the CSU a degrees kind of program finder. I think this is super easy to use and very convenient for our students because, of course, 23 campuses is so much information to sort through. So what I love about this is you can search, if you already have a major in mind, you can search for that major at our schools. It will bring up, for example, here, psychology. It'll bring up all of our schools that offer a psychology program, and they're all hyperlinked, so it will link you to that school's page and you can find out more information. But you can also use this in the opposite way and search through the majors and see if anything really cool stands out to you. Like I said, I will put this link in the chat as well. So this is a great way to get to know some of our CSU campuses. Since we are all connected, we have many programs that we all use, such as our study abroad program. So with our schools, we have over 60 year-long programs that all the CSUs partners in. And I love showcasing to my high school students because I want to get you guys excited about this. It does take a little while to plan. So start early, check some of these things out. Your financial aid does work for these things. You can take major classes, electives, and they won't add time to your degree. So something very unique and something cool you can add to your degrees. We also have an educational opportunity program at every one of our CSU campuses. EOP is a first generation and typically low income minority student program, and it's all about success. We're all about trying to get you into your four-year college and being successful and graduating. And this EOP application is actually embedded in the CalSAP Apply application. So definitely check this out and get to know all about the EOP program. The best way to describe it is if you've ever heard of AVID or are in AVID, it's very similar to that at the college level. Now, what do you need to get into a CSU? So the CSUs are not using SATs or ACTs. We are test blind for fall 2022. And I know we might have some sophomores in here. Unfortunately, the CSUs have not posted about the fall 2023 application. So check back and see how anything is changing. But you do need to graduate from high school, complete your A through Gs. And currently, since we are test blind, we did change our GPA to represent a minimum of 2.5 for our California high school graduates. Now, real quick, I know you guys should know this, but your A through Gs can be found here. And you can also look up on the UCOP. The CSUs and the UCs do share this. And you can look at your A through G courses at your high school to make sure they are applicable. Now, again, our minimum eligibility is a 2.5. However, we do have a set of supplemental criteria if you are in between that 2.0 and 2.49 range. Every campus is going to be different, unfortunately, but we are required to post this on our admissions pages. So if you are interested in a specific school, check out their website and look at their different supplemental criteria. All the information can be found on our application. So examples of this is if you're a first generation student, possibly income status, if you're a California high school graduate, all these things. The CSUs, of course, give credit to AP exams and IB exams, and you will want to check with each campus to see how those articulate to each. And impaction. So just really quick on impaction. So impaction means that there are more eligible students applying for these schools or these programs than space available. So we do have campuses that are impacted across all undergraduate programs, pre-programs, and undeclared majors. These are our Super 7. This is Cal Poly SLO, Cal State Fullerton, Cal State Long Beach, Cal State LA, Fresno State, San Diego State, and San Jose State. Then we have impacted for incoming freshmen. So this is at the freshman level. And this is CSU Chico, East Bay, Monterey Bay, Northridge, Cal Poly Pomona, Sac State, CSU San Bernardino, and CSU San Marcos. And then we have non-impacted campuses. So this means that they will accept all eligible applicants that meet the CSU minimum. However, we may have impacted programs. For example, at CSU CI, we have 2 impacted programs. That is our mechatronics engineering and our nursing program. but all other majors are not impacted. So the non-impacted campuses are Cal Maritime, CSU Bakersfield, Channel Islands, Dominguez Hills, Stanislaus, Humboldt, San Francisco State, and Sonoma State. The current in-state tuition and the fees is among the lowest compared to some of our other institutions. You can see here the average is around 11,000 and the CSUs are around 7. So this is tuition for the entire academic year. But of course, I know these things are kind of scary looking, but don't worry, there is tons of financial aid out there. 84% of our CSU students receive some form of financial aid through FAFSA, through grants, and through scholarships. And so once you start looking at these things, check with your CSU because we will have different scholarships for you to apply to as well. Like I just said, lots of different types of aid, and there's lots of different help out there. Every CSU will have a different type of financial aid page. CSU CI has a great one, we call it Financial Aid TV, and it actually has videos that will teach you how to apply for FAFSA, how to apply to the California Dream Act. They have videos to teach you about these different terms, like what is work study, and kind of help you figure out what that is. And they have videos both in English and Spanish, and both for our students and for parents. Our Cal State application is open every fall. So for fall 2022, will be open October 1st. And so everybody knows it is one application you'll fill out for all 23 campuses, and you will pay $70 per school you send your application to. There is a fee waiver embedded in the application. If you are eligible, you will receive 4 applications for free. There are no late applications, and you do not need any personal statements or essays. There are no letters of rec, and we do not need extracurricular activities. We are just checking those A through G courses in your GPA. And this is my contact information. So if you do have any questions about Channel Islands or about the CSUs, please reach out to me, my email, my phone number, and of course I will be putting it in the chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Caitlin, for presenting us with the CSU application. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to the UC applications, and Elizabeth Vasquez will be presenting about that.
Whoops, I was muted. Sorry. Give me one sec. Let me pull it up. Okay, are you able to see it? Are you able to see it?
Yes.
Okay, and you can hear me well, right?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. Let me go ahead and present. Okay, hi everybody. My name is Elizabeth Vasquez, and I will be representing the entire UC system today. I work for UC Santa Barbara, but however, like I said, I will be representing the whole system. So welcome to the mission presentation to the University of California. All right, so the UC is one of the largest university systems in the world, offering undergraduate and graduate programs on campuses located all across the state, as you can see from Davis all the way down to San Diego. There's 10 UC campuses, however, only 9 are open to undergrads. That 10th one was UC San Francisco, and that's only for graduate students. All of the 9 campuses enroll over 250,000 students. And each campus is going to vary by size, location, and academic programs that are offered. The UC campuses are spread across the entire state, as you can see up on the screen. All right. So as a public institution, the UC undergraduate students are overwhelmingly California residents. So we have students from almost 180 countries and nearly every single state, but the priority is given to California students. So 40% of students attending the UC are actually first generation, which means that they're the first in their family to attend college, which is pretty neat. We also have many institutions that are HSIs, which means that at least 25% of the institution, the students attending the institution are considered Hispanic or Latino. So if you're looking for diversity, you're going to want to look at some HSIs as well. Cool. So 64 Nobel laureates, 800 degrees, 16 academic disciplines, or 160, whoops. All right, so choosing a UC campus. Whoops. Okay, there we go. They're all coming up now. So as students consider which of the campuses they might apply to, you do want to consider the majors that are offered at each campus, because not every campus is going to offer the same major as the others. We also would like to consider maybe the location the size of the campus, and the full array of opportunities that are available at each campus. The UC encourages students to apply broadly to the university, and no matter which campus a student graduates from, we do want you to know that no matter where you go, you're going to have the prestige of attending a UC campus and earning that UC degree. So this is a chance for students to think of your personal educational preferences and the environments that you want to be surrounded by. So for example, if you're interested in living in a big city, you might want to consider a big campus like UCLA or UC Berkeley. Maybe something to consider as you select your campuses is how many students attend that particular university. So for example, Berkeley, Los Angeles, Davis, San Diego, and Irvine are considered very large campuses, whereas Santa Barbara and Riverside are more on the middle-sized campuses, and then Santa Cruz and Merced are what's more on the smaller scale. Okay. So the UCs have a range of services that meets the need of all students. So to highlight one of many on the screen are the undocumented students. So the UC campuses offer a range of support services for undocumented students, ranging from academic and personal counseling to even financial aid and legal advising, which can all serve to help students balance being both a full-time student while handling, day-to-day challenges that a student might face. Also, every single UC campus has an array of programs and services that both serve to empower first-gen students and marginalized students from different backgrounds to ensure that students not only get the most of their education, but that are feeling supported enough to graduate within the 4-year time frame. So applying broadly. So for freshman admissions, all 9 undergraduate campuses use something called the holistic or comprehensive admissions process. So students are going to be reviewed for the academic rigor they complete, but also for the accomplishments outside of the classroom that they share on the actual application. So the UC recognizes that a student's academic rigor and merit is important, right? Their GPA, but they also know and understand that they have a life outside of the classroom. And so they want to know what else you do with your other 8 hours of the day, what you do over the weekends, and what you do in your spare time over summer. And so that all plays a factor in UC admissions. I also want to highlight that it's that your major that you select when you are applying to the UC campuses could potentially have a factor in the admission selection. Cool. So applying to the UC. The UC application is available starting August 1st, but a student may not actually submit the application until November 1st. And then they have until the 30th to submit, right? That's the hard deadline. There's one application for all 9 campuses, and the application fee for every campus is $70. So students that are US citizens or permanent residents or domestic residents also have that $70 fee. However, for international students, it is an additional $10 of $80. And there's also an application fee waiver for low-income students. If you do qualify for the fee waiver, it'll cover up to 4 campuses. So that means if you want to apply to a 5th one, you would just pay that $70 difference, right? And the way that you qualify for that fee waiver is actually just based on some set of questions that are embedded within the application. So there is no external application to qualify for the fee waiver. It's part of the application. So you will be notified right away based on the questions you answer if you qualify for the fee waiver. The fee waiver also helps students that are AB 540. So if you are an undocumented student, but you've been a student in the state of California for at least 3 years, you would be considered AB 540 and would also be considered for the fee waiver if possible. And applications are not necessarily reviewed in the order in which they are submitted. So even if you submit on November 1st, it doesn't mean you're going to get notified beforehand. It just means that you submitted before. So all admissions decisions will roll out around the same time for each campus, and they start to trickle out beginning of March of your senior year. This is the link to apply and get started on the UC application. It's apply.universityofcalifornia.edu. Okay. So when looking at freshman admission requirements, you can see these 2 circles. It says subject area and GPA. So to qualify for freshman admission, students must meet the UC's subject and GPA requirement. including the A to G coursework, which, if you don't know what that is a specific sequence of courses that must be completed throughout your 4 years in high school, along with that minimum 3.0 GPA to apply. So what we do for UC admissions is we calculate your GPA on all of your sophomore and junior year A to G courses, including the ones that you completed in the summers after 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. That's all part of that same GPA. It's also important to highlight that there are a minimum number of courses needed. Most applicants present additional courses in many of these areas to be a more competitive applicant, or they might take more rigorous courses, such as instead of taking college prep English, they might take AP English or IB English. If you're unsure of your A to G status or your candidacy, please connect with your high school counselor and be sure to share these plans, right? Tell them that you do want to apply to the UC and to which specific UC campuses, so they can best advise you on how they can get you on track. Because again, there is that minimum 3.0 GPA to apply. And I do want to highlight that that minimum eligibility does not mean that you will be offered admission. It just means that somebody will consider you for admission. You'll have a set of human eyes to take a look at that application. And then freshman admission requirements. These are your A to Gs. And what's in the parentheses is the number of years that are needed to complete that requirement or for admission purposes. Cool. Let me see if there's anything. Oops. Okay, cool. So for this one, the comprehensive review. So in general, campuses are looking for well-qualified students who've taken advantage of all of the educational opportunities presented to them, both inside the classroom and on campus, as well as outside of the classroom and in their community. So all UC campuses do a comprehensive review, but there are different methods of the comprehensive review. Some are holistic and others are not. The faculty at each campus actually determines which factors are used and in what way. So this should not be seen as a checklist. Rather, the more boxes that you can check, the more competitive you will be in the admissions process. So the criteria listed on this slide is just a list of all the factors that could be used in some way in the admission process. So for example, for academic achievement, personal and school context, PIQs, activities, awards, special talent, life challenges, and special circumstances, those are all things that could be used in a certain way for admissions. And every campus has the discrepancy as to how they want to move forward with those criteria and in what way. And it's important to note that every single UC campus is going to look at the student's achievement within the context of your own educational environment and within the resources and opportunities that were available to them. So you're only going to be compared to students in your own school. They're not going to compare you to students of other high schools. And again, this is found in a number of different areas within the application, not just in your PIQs that students are going to be writing. If you don't know what the PIQs are, it's an acronym for the Personal Insight Questions, which is a component of the application. The Personal Insight Questions are a set of mini essays or mini responses. It's 350 words or less, I believe 350 words or less, where students respond to a set of questions, and there's 8 questions, and students can select 4 out of 8 to respond to showcase another side of them within the application. As for the UC does not have any required exams, so you could choose to take any AP exams, any IB exams, or any subject tests. And then these are some extra resources. You could go ahead and take a photo of this, especially for the admission selection process for freshmen, as well as general admission information. And another slide of you guys for resources if you guys would like to take a photo of that. And any questions, we'll be answering them in the chat afterwards. And now I'm going to hand it off to whoever is next.
That'll be me. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Beth Calkins. I work for Loyola Marymount University, but I'm going to do my best to represent all of my fellow private universities here this evening and kind of give you an introduction to what it means to be a private university, what that's all about. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the common application and the coalition application as well. So here we are, private universities. There are, as you probably know, over 4,000 different colleges and universities in the United States. Between 16 to 1,700 of these are private universities, meaning that unlike the UC or the CSU system, we're not funded by or affiliated with the government or the state in any way. So they are private, independent institutions. Big, small, all over the country, with all kinds of different focuses and emphases. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. This is Loyola Marymount, my beautiful alma mater and campus down on the west side of Los Angeles. So private universities, like I said, are located everywhere. We are, as private institutions, that means that we don't receive the same level of funding from the government, but we do have, therefore we're tuition driven institutions. Well, most of us are tuition driven in some way, but that we also rely on donations from alumni, friends of the university, things like that. Anytime we want to build a beautiful new building like our science building here, there may be a donor who puts their name on it, you know, that type of thing. The interesting thing, and about a quarter of the students in the United States, of college students, attend a private university, but really you can't compare, again, unlike the CSU or the UC system, we're not one type of school with different locations or even different emphases. Every school is independent. And so I think the most important thing for you to know is that if you're going to be looking at or considering private universities in your college search, it does take a little bit more homework, so to speak, to kind of figure out what it is you're interested in, what types of schools you're interested in. Private universities range from large to very, very small. They have all different academic specializations, and the admission process, the admission standards, selectivity, requirements, all of those things can vary widely from one institution to the next. If you take nothing else away from my little chunk of the presentation here, please know that you should not get what we would call sticker shock when it comes to considering private universities. Some families just automatically assume that because the listed tuition price is higher than you might find at a state school, that it's therefore going to be unaffordable. But the thing is that we often also have larger endowments, more sources of financial aid, and many of our students do receive financial aid, sometimes all the way up to full tuition, which again varies widely from one university to the next. But please do not get sticker shock when it comes to private universities. The cost is an absolute factor, but it's something that I always encourage families to just, it's a part of the process. You have to go through the process, apply to certain schools that you're interested in, be admitted, and then you can compare apples to apples, so to speak, when it comes to looking at financial aid awards from any different campuses to which you've been admitted. Let's see, I think that's all I have to say there. So here's just kind of a quick glance. There are two different types of private universities. I've just divided them here into secular and religious. So secular meaning that there's no religious affiliation, places like Boston University, Howard University, which is an historically Black college, or university rather, USC, Stanford, some others that you might be more familiar with. These schools are private, independent, but are not affiliated with any religion or faith. The other schools on here are what we would call religious institutions, including Loyola Marymount. We are a Catholic university founded in the Jesuit tradition. It's sort of like a type of Catholic. Notre Dame is in the middle of there, one of the probably most well-known Catholic universities. Pepperdine is a religiously affiliated Christian institution, but not Catholic. So I could go on about the differences, but again, I think the important thing to know is that even within the religiously affiliated schools, that doesn't mean that you have to be of that religion in order to study or be comfortable at that school. There's a small handful of religiously affiliated schools where they might, you know, ask students to, you know, uphold certain standards in their own life or things like that. But those are less common than not. So for the most part, within religious institutions, you don't have to be, you know, at Loyola Marymount, for example, even though we're a Catholic institution, we of course admit students from all different faith backgrounds. We have active Muslim student life on campus and active Jewish student life on campus. So there are a lot of ways to be engaged in terms of your faith life on campus, you know, even at a religiously affiliated institution. Some kind of, it's hard to generalize the benefits because again, the types of institutions vary so widely, but generally it says generally fewer students. There are some large private universities, places large being, you know, anything over 15,000 students. So DePaul in Chicago, New York University, Washington University in St. Louis, these are large private institutions. There are some like Notre Dame, Boston College that may have large football programs, things like that. And then there are a whole bunch of medium-sized schools, LMU among them, places like Brown in Rhode Island, Creighton in Nebraska, Baylor in Texas. These are all medium-sized schools. And then, as I kind of have mentioned, there are a whole bunch of small, very individualized and specialized and personalized schools, some that may be focused, and especially once you get into those smaller schools, you'll really find a particular focus or emphasis. So you've got places like St. John's College, which their entire curriculum is founded on the Great Books program, or there are schools that are focused specifically on pharmacy or health sciences, places like Caltech that are focused obviously in STEM fields, or places like the Olin College of Engineering in Massachusetts, which obviously focuses on undergraduate engineering studies. So there are so many different types of schools, but generally speaking, you're going to find, even in those larger campuses, it's going to be a part of the mission of a private university to really give individualized attention to students, to offer lots of programs and services to support students, whether it be tutoring or ethnic or intercultural services, support services, even smaller communities within the community. And they tend to be very collaborative, friendly places with strong communities, where the professors are really focused on undergraduates. So that's another thing. Within private universities, you may find schools that focus on the undergraduate experience, or you may find schools that offer graduate studies as well, but you're going to find a very high percentage of classes taught by professors, and you're going to find it very easy to kind of make those connections and take advantage of the relationships that you find there. I threw a bullet on here about scholarships. I kind of mentioned this before, but again, it can vary widely from one private university to the next. But many private universities will have scholarships that are specific to students who are studying in a certain area, or specific to students who come from a certain background or area. At LMU, I know, as with many institutions, we have a handful of very prestigious scholarships that are specifically for undocumented students, high performing students, students who have a particular, you know, talent in the arts, things like that. So again, it's just really kind of matters on the type, which schools you're specifically looking at. When it comes to the application process, again, it's not, you know, this is where I think it's worth it, but you have to do a little bit of extra work in terms of figuring out, kind of navigating the application process. So and the Common Application, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about, actually has some, like, a great basic search tool, which I highly encourage you to play around with, you know, sometime soon, just to kind of see what types of schools are out there. And there are a lot of public schools that use the Common Application as well. But you can select your criteria and just search around, search regions of the country, programs of study that you're interested in, size or religious affiliation, things like that. So the Common App is just an example of a search engine that you could start to use to get an idea what type of school you might be interested in. And then, you know, don't need to walk through every step of this, but the kind of gist of the application process at a private university is that academics will of course be important. And you may find schools that'll say, you know, if you have this GPA and these courses, you know, you're guaranteed admission or have a good chance of admission. But because private institutions tend to be smaller, we really focus on and take to heart a holistic application review, meaning that yes, academics are important because you're going to come and be a student here, but we really care about where you spent your time, what's mattered to you as a person, and in the last 4 years in your high school experience. We're going to read your letters of recommendation. We want to know what your teachers and coaches and bosses have to say about you. And we really are trying to kind of picture you as a citizen of our institution. Imagine what contribution you'll make to the community at our school. So all of those things kind of play into the application process at a private university. And then I talked a little bit more, I already kind of talked about not getting a sticker shock and things like that. The other thing about private institutions is because we're often smaller and have, you know, really individualized advising services and things like that. I also like to remind students that when you're calculating the total cost of a private university, even when you're looking at you know, a year's cost of attendance with financial aid, you really can, you know, more often than not multiply by 4 and not assume that you need to have a whole bunch of units 4 years. In other words, you don't need to have 30 units coming in order to finish in 4 years. You don't have to, you know, pull strings, bend over backwards, go to school in the summer, or do any crazy things like that in order to graduate in 4 years. That's usually our goal. So you can, again, always ask those questions. What percentage of students graduate in 4 years is a great question to ask of a private university. And then you can hear what somebody has to say about the importance of that, you know, 4-year graduation rate. So really briefly, the common application is, as it says here, accepted by over 900 different colleges and universities. The idea of the common application is that you can fill out one application and apply to a lot of different schools. They'll each have their own, you know, application fee and probably some supplement, but the common application is really easy to use. You kind of input all of your demographic information one time and then check to see, you know, if each of the schools that you're applying to requires a supplement, like a YLMU. Why, you know, why do you want to attend this particular school, or maybe an additional essay, something like that. But it kind of makes it easy to apply to a lot of different schools. The coalition application is similar in that it is a common application for a number of schools, but it's much smaller. It's accepted by about 150 universities. And the coalition has only been around for a few years. And part of their kind of goal, and by the way, the reason that I'm presenting on behalf of private universities is because we accept both the common and the coalition application, which many private universities may. So anyway, the coalition has kind of a specific focus on being committed to access for students. So in addition to being just an application platform, they also have some like this locker feature and some other kind of planning tools and things like that that can help you start to organize, which as a sophomore is just a great time to get started. If you think any of the 150 coalition schools might be of interest to you, it's a great time you can start kind of dropping some of your activities into your locker and keep track. It's kind of gets you organized in term to be ready for the application process when the time comes. The other thing with coalition schools is that they really try to make sure that all of their member institutions, all of the schools who accept the coalition application, have in some way demonstrated their commitment to college access. So either by promising to meet full documented financial need, or at least making sure that students don't graduate with mounds of debt, things like that. So you can really count on those coalition schools to be accessible, both financially and in terms of the academics and just their sort of commitment to student support and things like that. So it's a part of their goal. I feel like I was going to say something else about that. Nope, that was it. Oh, the other thing though, if you're using the common or the coalition application, is that again, a lot of private universities may like offer application fee waivers, for example, but you're going to have to go to each private university. Even like I know if you qualify for free and reduced lunch or SAT testing waivers, even though the SAT isn't happening as much right now, you know, you can get application fee waivers at private universities. Sometimes they don't necessarily even need you to document that. Sometimes even just asking the question, you can get an application fee waiver pretty easily. But like so many things, it's just a matter of reaching out to that college or university to ask the question. So my kind of last plug on private universities, and these are just some kind of general tips about writing a strong application, but I think the most important thing you can do when considering and applying to private schools is to reach out to the admission counselors at those schools, because you will often find admission professionals who are more than happy to be in touch with you, who want to tell you about their school, who want to offer you a fee waiver, who can guide you through the application process, who can talk to you about your program of study. And some schools even factor in or kind of pay attention to what we call demonstrated interest in the application process, meaning they like it if you've reached out to them and gotten to know them even outside of the application itself. So you know, proofreading, things like that. Again, because we're conducting a holistic review, we really are going to read your essays thoughtfully. We really are going to take note and pay attention to whether you seem to understand the type of school that you're applying to when you're looking at our school. So those are just a few tips. I could go on, but I think my time is up. So I will stop there and leave time for Q&A, and I'll put my email address in the chat as well. Even though I do obviously work for one single private university, I'd be happy to hear from you if you have questions about the common application or private universities in general. Please, I'd be more than happy to hear from you. I love email. So with that, I'll be happy to leave some time for Q&A.
Thank you, Beth, and thank you to our presenters, Elizabeth and Caitlin, as well, and to everyone here tonight. We are going to share CalSOAP's contact information again, just so that if you didn't get it down before, you can have it now. If you want to keep talking about the CSU, UC, or private college application process or preparation, feel free to reach out to us at CalSOAP or to any of our presenters tonight. Again, the Q&A is open if you want to get any last minute questions in.
Hi, Marla. Yeah, so some of the presenters will be resharing their emails on the chat. All right, so we do have a question. Morgan asks, what's the difference between UC and CSU systems in terms of teaching or research? So not sure if Elizabeth or Caitlin might want to answer that.
I can speak on behalf of the CSUs. I don't know. It's a big discussion, I think. The CSUs were really created back in the day to be a very technical, vocational type of school, like very tangible degrees. And that was kind of our main focus. It was to get students degrees so they would go out into industry. In more recent years, we have kind of transitioned to having more research on campuses. But I know I'm also kind of a part of the UC system. So I know that research is very big in the UCs, a lot bigger than the CSUs. Obviously, it's a little bit newer to us. Elizabeth might speak more about that, but we offer very similar things. We're both really great systems. To put it kind of in like very like narrow-minded terms, I would say CSUs are kind of gearing students towards industry careers, where UCs are kind of gearing students towards graduate studies, even though they do have both kind of pathways, same at CSU levels as well. I don't know if Elizabeth wants to speak more on that.
Yeah, sure. So really, I mean, the question is a little bit bigger than it is giving credit for. So to answer your question, you know, in terms of faculty and teaching styles and research, I mean, it really depends on the campus as well. The campus has a lot to do with it. So the UCs are very much known for their research. And research isn't necessarily being in a white, you know, lab coat and goggles. Research could be, you know, observing students in an elementary school setting. It could be research is it's subjected to the institution and to the faculty member that is advising that research project happening. So the UC is very, very big on research. However, there are students that maybe don't take part in research, but will take part in internship opportunities. And the UCs are big on preparing students as well. The CSU has a motto, or at least it did back in my day, it was learn by doing, right? And the UC is very much theory based, as you know, including that research. But with that research and that internship component, you know, that's where we try to link theory to practice. So as much as we love to prepare students for advancement in their education, whether it be graduate studies or PhD programs or what have you, we also very much try to prepare students for the career world as well. We host, you know, tons of career preparation workshops, resume building, you know, LinkedIn sessions as well. We actually get people from Google and Microsoft to come out to our UC campuses to promote, you know, any opportunities or internships where maybe you don't need that advanced degree. And so exposure is really big at the UC level as well. With that said, I'm sure the CSUs offer something very similar. And again, I'm just speaking to my knowledge at UC Santa Barbara because I'm a byproduct of the UC system at UCSB and I work there. But the UCs are huge. So there might be more opportunities going, you know, in tech if you're going to Berkeley or if you're going to UCLA, right? You could do research in the film industry as well. It really just depends on the UC campus that you choose to attend.
Thank you, Caitlin and Elizabeth, for answering that. Fortunately, we don't have time for any more questions, but you can feel free to look through the chat. All our facilitators or our presenters will be dropping their emails on the chat. Make sure you write those down. And if you have any more questions about UCs, the Common App, or CSUs, make sure they email them. And then I'm going to go ahead and leave it to Jasmine. Thank you.
Sorry, really quickly, there is a great question in the chat about the UCs and the CSUs and the SAT or ACT component. For the UCs, I just wanted to address this because this is big. It's all over the news now and it's being, you know, perpetuated on social media. So for the UCs, we're not requiring the SAT or ACT for admissions. It's optional if students want to take it. And I do want to highlight that if a student chooses to take the SAT or ACT and they do not quote unquote score well, it's not going to be a negative factor. When a student submits something as part of their application for the UC, it is either positive or neutral. So I do want to highlight that if a student wants to make that as part of their application, they are free to do so. We are not going to penalize students for not doing that or for not taking it. It's completely up to you. So again, I just wanted to throw that out there as far as the SAT and ACT component.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you all for joining us. As you exit the Zoom session, a survey will appear. It's approximately 4 questions, but please complete the survey. It's extremely helpful as we aim to improve our virtual college fair offerings. Also want to remind you to sign up for additional sessions. And finally, a recording will be available within about a week or so. With that said, again, thank you so much for joining us. I hope everyone has a great evening.